Alright, what's up guys? Nito here, and I finally have a mic again, so now I can record some videos. This is going to be a video talking about the second character I played in the 316 Scourge League. It is a Brain Rattler Battlemage Inquisitor using both Blade Vortex and Tornado. I will note that, so Tornado is a new ability, and it has this thing where you can kind of pump projectiles into it, and then it reflects some of the projectile damage to enemies around it. But it also just deals physical damage over time. Sorry, not damage over time. It does physical damage at a fixed rate every 0.25 seconds throughout the duration. So it's a physical duration skill, which is exactly the same as Blade Vortex. So they both scale basically the same. They don't really scale off of cast speed at all. Blade Vortex, once you hit maximum stacks, additional cast speed isn't going to do anything for you. So, yeah, I wanted to see if it was possible to scale just the hit portion of Tornado without doing any of the reflection stuff. So I'm kind of just ignoring that for this build. And it turns out Tornado deals roughly a third the damage of fully stacked Blade Vortex. So in this build, Blade Vortex is doing like 3 to 4 million DPS. Tornado is going to be around 1 million DPS on a 6-link. Just note that I don't actually have a 6-link chest yet, so currently it's more for just a little bit of extra damage, but then some utility like applying Onslaught, or on bosses I can swap in Culling Strike, and because it hits so frequently, it'll keep Onslaught up most of the time. And then the other thing is it actually slows every enemy in the area, so it has 30% reduced movement speed with the Hinder. And then Brain Rattler also reduces the movement speed of enemies that you shock. So together it's 50% move speed slow, which can be really nice on bosses and can make things a little easier. I will also note that Brain Rattler gives you shock enemies as though dealing 300% more damage. And then with some of the new stuff on the tree, like Elemental Mastery giving increased effect of non-damaging ailments, some more effect right there. And then I also have Static Blows over here, giving increased effect of lightning ailments. So I'm actually able to get full 50% shocks on pretty much everything in the game. That includes endgame bosses like Cyrus, Shaper, stuff like that. I've done Awakener 8 Cyrus on this character. It wasn't the cleanest kill ever because I was missing some gear at that point, and I didn't have much Chaos Res or Corrupting Blood immunity, so I did die a few times, but we did get it done in the end. And yeah, I was able to confirm that you do actually get the full 50% shock on Cyrus when you're using Brain Rattler, so that's pretty cool. Brain Rattler also, in general, just gives a ton of good stuff for this build. You get the 50% lightning conversion, which means that you can convert fully with phys to lightning support. Or you could, if you wanted to, there's a new lightning mastery that gives 40% conversion. I ended up not opting for that because I'm only taking this lightning cluster right here, and I really wanted that lightning damage with non-crit strikes as lucky, because this is a non-crit build. You can see we have elemental overload here. And yeah, I mean, we're not taking any of this crit stuff in the Inquisitor Ascendancy, so we're doing Augury of Penitence, which makes enemies take increased elemental damage and makes us take less elemental damage. That combines nicely with some armor stacking that we're doing in this build using the new Determination. Then obviously we have Battle Mage, and we have Sanctuary and Pious Path. And if you didn't know, Pious Path got a really nice buff this league with the 50% increased effect of Consecrated Ground you create. So Consecrated Ground gives you 6% life regen while you're standing on it, I believe, as well as 50% reduced effect of curses. So with the extra effect of Consecrated Ground, you now get 9% life regen and 75% reduced effect of curses. And then that life regen is effectively doubled because it's also applying to your energy shield. And then when you also consider these two minor nodes having half a percent of life regen, you basically get 20% life regen total from your Ascendancy alone now, which is absolutely massive. So this is very strong, this league, and I would definitely recommend Inquisitor. As if you've been struggling with your league starter, Inquisitor with some armor stacking has been just really solid, defensively anyways. So the other thing that's kind of cool is you can do this armor and ES mastery that gives defend with 120% of armor while not on low energy shield. And because we regenerate energy shields so quickly as an Inquisitor, you're almost never on low energy shield, and at least not for very long. So this node effectively becomes basically 20% more armor is almost the effect that has. So it's very, very powerful as well. And then I am using Divine Shield. I don't think it does a ton for this build. You know, we're not like taking that much. We're not taking that much physical damage. We're not like hitting ourselves or anything, doing any cheese like that. So it usually ends up being like a couple hundred extra regen for energy shield. So it's not bad, but you know, it's only 2 points to get there. So I think it's worth taking. I just don't think it's like anything amazing. This life mastery that cuts the mana reservation for vitality is really nice. We're also, since we're running determination, we take this one, this armor mastery that reduces the mana reservation of that. And this cluster in general is really nice for Inquisitor just because it gives you a bunch of regen as well as armor and life. So like I highly recommend taking that on most Inquisitor builds. And then you know, over here we have this Unnatural Instinct Jewel, which is honestly completely insane and kind of busted for this build, because if you look at all the stats it gives you, this actually is much better this league than it used to be, and it was already pretty strong, but now it gives something like 59% total increased damage for physical spells. So it used to not hit this node or this node, so right there that's an extra 10% spell damage, 10% phys damage. It also used to not hit this node, which is 15% damage with hits against curse enemies. So that's like an extra 35% damage that it used to not get. And then I believe these nodes got buffed from 10% to 12% AoE. I think. I could be wrong on that. But yeah, so you get some AoE, you get some cast speed, you get skill effect duration, regen. It's just like absolutely nuts for a build like this. It's really, really, really strong. So I do recommend, if you want to play any kind of Blade Vortex or really any physical spell, especially physical spells with a duration, like this cluster, or this Unnatural Instinct is just like insane. And then of course we have our Corrupted Soul from Glorious Vanity, which is basically a must-have on any Inquisitor build, because it just kind of makes your defenses work so much better. And then also using a Thread of Hope here, and just picking up static blows, some extra ES, AoE, area damage, cast speed, stuff like that. And yeah, so the reason I'm using a minus 20% Thread of Hope here is not because I can't afford a better one, it's actually because I want negative resistances, because I'm using Doriani's prototype. And Doriani's prototype is going to make enemies have the same lightning resistance that I have, and currently I have negative 200, which is the new cap on minimum resistances that you can have. I believe I'm almost positive that they made this change specifically for Doriani's prototype, because it's so much easier to get negative resistances now thanks to Scourge mods. So for example, this ring I had dropped for me from a Scourge boss, and it has minus 29% to lightning res, minus 11% to all res, and then it also has minus 20% to all res, just as part of the unique item. So I'm actually using two of these rings. This one also has minus lightning res with some additional life and stuff like that. And yeah, we got two of these. We got an Immortal Flesh, which also has minus all res, and then Scourge minus lightning res. And I think that's all the negative res I need. Yeah, so that's all the minus lightning res we need to get to minus 200. That and Thread of Hope. So yeah, it's very powerful. Doriani's prototype, especially now that armor is actually good, so you can actually get around the downside of this by stacking armor. You're still vulnerable to lightning damage over time, but it's pretty rare that enemies deal lightning damage over time. There's only a few sources of it in the game. And because we have so much regen, you know, it kind of counteracts that a little bit. You can see I have like almost 1500 life regen and energy shield regen. And because we have so much regen, we can also run Righteous Fire. So for this build, I just have Righteous Fire active all the time. And then the other thing I'm running is, so we're running Wrath, Vitality, Purity of Fire, and Determination. So Purity of Fire gives us it helps us with counteracting all the negative resistance we have. So it gives us some fire res, and then it gives us extra maximum fire res to make it easier to run Righteous Fire. So you can see I'm at 79 fire res. And then to help us with cold res, we have the Brine Crown, which has 5% reduced cold damage taken, cannot be frozen, plus just a whole bunch of armor and some energy shield, some life, etc. So this is actually quite nice for this build. And then on here I have Purity of Fire, increased mana reservation efficiency, and then just like a whole bunch of stats. Ideally, you'd probably want to amulet with like +1 to dex skills or +1 to phys skills. But those are expensive and hard to craft. And I was having issues getting all the dex I needed for this build because Blade Vortex just has a really high dex cost. But, you know, with some tweaking, I'm sure you could probably fix that and get a better amulet if you really wanted to. But even without that, the build deals somewhere around 4 to 5 million DPS pretty reliably against bosses and stuff. And we are using Intensify support as well. And so we're able to take this +1 to maximum intensity over here, which is pretty cool. And yeah, basically that's pretty much it. The other thing that's actually kind of insane this league is they added the new increased life regeneration rate mod on gloves and boots. So you can get a ton of extra life regen. It's because it's actually a multiplier to your life regen. So I highly recommend, if you're playing an Inquisitor, you should definitely try to get that mod on both gloves and boots. And I think it rolls much higher than this too. Yeah, this is only tier 4 for 14%, so I think it goes up to like maybe 30%, something like that. Not quite sure, but it's quite a lot. So yeah, this build has been pretty darn good, actually. It's pretty tanky. It has like a couple weaknesses, like obviously the lightning damage over time thing is a problem, and then my chaos res is also not that great because it's just really hard to squeeze in chaos res. But you know, you could definitely fix that with maybe like certain Scourge mods, or one thing I wanted to do was swap out one of these rings with probably a death rush, which has a bunch of chaos res and also gives you onslaught. But I couldn't find one that had the right mods on it yet. But it should be possible between our jewels and stuff. It should be possible to actually get that. And then the only other weakness is we're not stun immune all the time. We're only stun immune if we've killed recently. So we have 80% chance to avoid here. And then one of these jewels has stun avoidance on it. Yeah. This one has chance to avoid being stunned. And then all the jewels just have life and reduced effective shock and chill on you. So those are other good mods to look out for, because we're not completely ailment immune. And then I'm anointing Asylum just because I needed chaos res. And then with the reduced effective curses on you that you get from this, as well as the consecrated ground and the increased effect. So we're like 93% reduced effective curses. So you can effectively just ignore curses. Which is just really nice quality of life for a build like this. So anyways, I will just run a quick map and kind of show you what it looks like. Again, you can see I can just have Righteous Fire on all the time. We're not degenning or anything. And that just gives us a whole bunch of extra damage. So, yeah. So it's kind of what it looks like. You just kind of run around and murder stuff. And then you can kind of drop your tornado and it'll just kind of do its own thing. You don't have to like sit there and charge it up with projectiles or anything like that. It just kind of slows everything. It almost behaves the same way as a Blade Vortex, which is another thing that makes this build really nice. There's supposed to be a mob there. Oh, right, this is a Elder map, so I think it got eaten by Elder. But yeah, Blade Vortex clears really well. and it's actually very nice for the Scourge, because you can kind of just drop it, and then they zoom off screen and kill all the Scourge mobs for you, without you having to get too close to them. And typically I can get, you know, somewhere around 150 to 200 stacks of Scourge, you know, in tier 16 maps, or it depends on how juiced the map is, really, and, you know, how good the layout is and stuff like that. But yeah, you can get quite high on the Scourge stacks with this build, and it doesn't really struggle too much against most of the Scourge mobs. However, it does seem like there are... Oh, okay, I got popped by goats. I have noticed that the goat, I think it's the reflected damage from their molten shells does kind of kill you sometimes, because again, you're like in their face, and then the molten shell goes off and just explodes and murders you. Those things are kind of broken in my opinion. And then yeah, I've noticed that there's certain Scourge mobs seem to do like an insane amount of lightning damage, and the higher the the bigger the hit is for the lightning damage, the more, like, the worse our defenses are against it, because like against smaller hits our armor is going to mitigate almost all of it, but then against larger hits the armor gets worse and worse. So you will randomly die to Scourge sometimes, and it's like when it happens you will just like instantly get deleted, and it's very annoying, because like the rest of the build is obviously you know, pretty tanky. It's just like this one situation where you get absolutely murdered. So yeah, I'm still trying to figure out like if there's a good way to fix up kind of the holes in the defenses of this build, but overall I think just like the whole Inquisitor combo with armor has worked out really well, and I don't really even have a massive investment in armor. I could have gone a lot harder on it. Like I think
my mana is spent.
What am I at? I'm at 30k-ish while standing still. You know, more with blast up and stuff like that, so it's an okay amount of armor. It's nothing special. I know there are builds this league that can get like way more armor. Okay, yeah, so those mobs I think are the Scourge mobs that deal a ton of lightning damage. Anyways, I'll just show you kind of like what the bossing looks like. Should be yeah, this is like an elder boss, so we'll just do that real quick. Turn our Righteous Fire back on. And then of course you have Molten Shell as another defensive layer that we have. It's instance, you just put it on left click and it absorbs a whole bunch of damage. So for a lot of bosses, you can kind of just stand still. You charge up your intensity, which makes you deal a whole lot more damage. And I also have the Pantheon that's going to help while we're standing still. Right, so I have the Soul of Tukohama Pantheon. And then, like, we can drop our Tornado, we can drop our Blade Vortex, Ball Blade Vortex, etc. And you can see this boss dying pretty quickly and not really posing much of a threat. I think I forgot to put Cull on my Tornado, but, like, yeah, Tornado is great at applying Cull on bosses and stuff, so, like, there you go. That was, you know, that was a Elder Guardian with Maven on it, and, you know, I literally just sat there and it died. So pretty fun build. Definitely recommend. Like, I had been wanting to make a Brain Rattler Battlemage build for a long time, and with the changes this league, it's gotten so much better, because it's much easier to off color stuff this league with tainted chromatics. So like this is a 5 off color on a on a weapon that normally has a 212 strength cost. So it's normally very hard to off-color this. But Tainted Chromatics seem to just ignore the weighting completely, so it's just totally random. And it's also very easy to quality with the Tainted Whetstones. And then I got lucky and hit some extra lightning damage on there too, which is pretty cool. So, yeah, oh, and then obviously Doriani's prototype this league. I think a lot of people have been... I know Math will play the build with it. I think a lot of people have realized how strong this is this league because of all the sources of minus lightning res. So yeah, I think like Scourge League is kind of cool because a lot of the downsides you can kind of find ways that they're upsides. You know, like another thing that I was messing with is you can get minus minion res on your gloves, which is normally bad. But then if you're playing like a minion instability build with Infertile Legion support, you can kill your minions faster with minus res from your gloves. So like stuff like that where you can find like you can turn the downsides into upsides. I think all of those types of builds are going to be really strong this league. So yeah, hopefully I'll do another video or two showcasing some of those ideas that I've been wanting to test out. So anyways, thanks for watching. And one more thing, I will just shout out our Discord. I'll put a link in the description. If you want to just join the Discord, you can be, the first to access any of the new interactions that we discover. And if you find something cool you want to share, everybody on there is sharing cool ideas all the time. So come check it out. It's a pretty cool place. Anyways, thanks for watching and have a good one.